I think all of us, at least from time to time, like to get away from it all. Today's gospel is evidence of one more way that Jesus shows us how like us he is, how human he is. We're meeting Jesus here after he's been out on the road, preaching his message and performing signs, miracles, healing the sick. And he's tired, he's weary. This is a great image here of how Jesus is both human and divine. He has the strength and the power for miracles, but doing them tires him out. So wanting to get away for a little R&R, he gets his friends together, crosses the Sea of Galilee, hikes up the mountain to enjoy the view, and the first thing he sees is all these people coming towards him. He can't escape the crowds. Folks are making their way up the slope because they want to see him. And what's the first thing Jesus thinks about? How are we going to feed these people? It's like you when you see somebody pull into the driveway. So, oh my God, what are we going to give them to eat? Because back then there was no Safeway or King Super to run to. And you need a really big store like that to feed all those people, even if you're only handing out snacks. So Jesus takes what's at hand, a little boy's 5 loaves of bread, and 2 fish. And he performs another sign and feeds all the people with baskets and baskets left over. I wish St. John had not been so silent when it comes to sharing with us the details of how all that took place. What happened? How did it happen? What did it look like? Did bread and fish just fall out of the sky? Did Jesus call DoorDash or Uber Eats and order up some baskets of food? If only someone had been there with a cell phone. We'd have a video of the whole thing. We could look at it. But I wonder, even if we had a video of what took place, I wonder if it's possible we still might miss the most important element of this story. And no, I don't think the multiplication of the loaves and the fishes is the most important thing here. Keep in mind that this huge crowd of people had no expectation of lunch being served. When they followed Jesus up the mountain, why'd they do that? Well, maybe they were hoping he'd perform another sign, do another miracle, maybe heal someone. That might have been reasons for them to follow him. For sure they followed him because they wanted to hear more of what he had to say. They ended up where they were because they were hungry, but they were hungry for Jesus. Their hunger for Jesus was so great. Their hunger for his message was so deep that they followed him to a place where they knew there would not be anything to eat. There'd be no fast food places along the way. They were hungry, but they were hungry for Jesus. And we might do well to pay less attention to how all these people were fed and more attention to what they hungered for and what they received. If these people had followed Jesus hoping to see him work a miracle, a sign, that's exactly what they got. A miracle is a sign of something else. A miracle always points to a deeper, greater reality than the sign itself. A miracle is meant to grab our attention, to redirect our attention to something more important. But we easily get caught up in the blitz, in all the bling, Oh, look at all that food. But all that food is meant to point to something more. Jesus feeding all these people was a sign of his desire and his capacity to satisfy the hungers of the people's hearts. In short, Jesus fed their bellies to get to their souls. So what can you and I learn from all this some 2,000 years after Jesus crossed the Sea of Galilee and climbed up that mountain? Well, our coming to church here this afternoon to Mass, this is our way of following Jesus up the mountain. And he invites us to share with him here, to share those things for which you and I most deeply hunger. Jesus wants us to share with him our hunger pains. The pains of hunger we know in our hearts and our souls. And what are those? What are the things we hunger for most deeply? We hunger for love. And we hunger to be loved. We hunger for companionship, for friendship, for intimacy. We hunger for peace of mind, for peace in our families, in our relationships, for peace in our nation, for peace in the world. We hunger for the truth, even when it's hard to find, hard to hear, and hard to accept. We hunger for justice for ourselves, but even more for those who are most often denied justice. We hunger for freedom, especially when our personal circumstances and difficulties confine and restrain us. We hunger to be known, to be recognized, to be understood, to be respected. We hunger for strength. The older I get, the more I hunger for strength. Physical and moral strength. I hunger for strength, especially when we are at our weakest. We hunger to know where we came from, why we're here, what life's all about, to know where we're going, to know what's yet to come. And at the heart of all this hunger is the most basic hunger of all, our primordial hunger. We hunger to know God. And we hunger for God's love, God's mercy, God's peace. St. Augustine said, "Our hearts are restless, Lord, until they rest in you." Let's paraphrase that for today. Our hearts are hungry, Lord, until you feed and fill them. The crowds in today's gospel followed Jesus precisely because they sensed, they intuited that he had a word, a wisdom, a message, a promise that could feed their deepest hungers. Have we followed Jesus here today up this little mountain, hoping and praying the same for us? Let me suggest a couple of questions that might help us here. Questions we might take into the week ahead of us. What are the deepest hungers of my heart, your heart? Have I forgotten my soul's deepest hungers because I feed my soul with spiritual junk food? Do I believe, do I trust, do I hope that Jesus has a word to feed my deepest yearnings? Do I believe, do I trust, do I hope that Jesus has a message, a promise to feed, to fill in, and to fill up the emptiness in my hungry heart? Do I believe, do I trust, do I hope that Jesus has bread for me? And not just any bread, but indeed the bread of life, to feed and nourish in me what will always be empty till it's filled with the life of the one who made me and who's waiting for me to come home to his peace. If our coming to church today is our climbing the mountain in the gospel, then our coming to communion today is our opening our hands and our mouths and our hearts to receive the bread that Jesus has in endless supply, the bread of life, that life that has no end, the bread that satisfies every hunger. Hungry for Jesus. We are hungry, you and I. Well, I'll speak for myself. I'm hungry for a lot of things. Some of them good, some of them not so good. Some of them fill my belly and some of them fill my heart. But I always need to be more hungry for Jesus. In the morning when I rise, in the morning when I rise, in the morning when I rise, give me Jesus, give me Jesus, give me Jesus. You can have all this world. Give me Jesus. When I'm hungry deep within, when I hunger in my soul, when I hunger in my heart, give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. You can have all this world. Give me Jesus. When I hunger for his word, when I hunger for his bread, when I hunger to be fed, give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. You can have all this world. Give me Jesus.